All right, let's dive into something really tough. Today, we're going to explore a question that kind of shakes the very foundation of how we think about justice. It's one of those things that comes up in the most tragic situations, where the lines we count on to tell us what's right and what's wrong just start to fade away.
And boom, there it is. This question just cuts right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It makes us face this incredibly uncomfortable idea. What do you do when one person is both the victim and the one causing harm? We really want to keep those two things in separate boxes, but sometimes life just doesn't work that way.
So let's start right there with this idea of blurring lines. We're going to look at how extreme suffering can, in some really harrowing cases, completely transform a person.
You know, when you look it up in a dictionary, it seems so simple, right? It's black and white. Our whole legal system, our sense of morality, it's all built on these clean definitions. On one side, you've got the victim, the person who's been hurt, and on the other, you've got the perpetrator, the person who did the hurting. It's a simple binary that helps us, make sense of things. But we all know life isn't that simple. The reality can be so much messier. And in some of the most heartbreaking stories out there, this clear, definite line just vanishes. It's gone. And you're left with someone who is, without a doubt, both.
So the big question is, how? How does this actually happen? Let's try to trace that psychological path, that traumatic turning point where someone who has been broken starts to break others.
You can almost see it as this tragic three-step process that usually kicks off with someone just enduring profound suffering, sometimes over and over again. Then, after a while, that harm isn't just something that happened to them anymore. It gets inside. It becomes internalized. It can change everything about how they see the world, their sense of who they are. And for some, and this is the absolute tragedy of it all, it ends in this final step, inflicting suffering on others, sometimes in a way that is a horrifying echo of what they went through themselves.
And look, this isn't some abstract idea from a textbook. This is a real, chilling thing that happens. It's this devastating cycle where pain, instead of getting healed, just gets passed on. And that transformation, well, that's the core of the problem. And it's a massive challenge for all of us.
Which brings us right to the justice system. I mean, how can a system that's designed for clarity, for black and white, possibly respond when faced with this much gray, this much complexity? That really is the million-dollar question for our legal systems, isn't it? When you're dealing with a person who has both suffered immensely and caused immense suffering, how do you even start to use labels like innocent or guilty? The entire framework just seems to, well, it breaks. Let's break this down. Think about the main goals of justice. First, assigning culpability, right? Figuring out who's to blame. But how do you weigh someone's guilt when it's all tangled up with their own past trauma? Okay, then what about protecting society? Does just punishing the act do anything to address the deep-seated trauma that might have caused it? Are we really stopping the cycle, or are we just hitting pause? And finally, resolution. What does a just outcome even look like for the new victims, for society, and for the person who is this walking paradox? So we kind of circle back to where we started, but now the question feels so much heavier, doesn't it? This isn't a problem with an easy fix. There's no simple answer. It forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about accountability, about compassion, and what it really means to seek justice in a world that is hardly ever black and white.